living in New York City. She was working for Vanity Fair. She was a writer. She was a model. Like, she was in it. She was doing it for herself. And then her mother called her and said, you have to come home. You have to get married. You have to have babies, and you have to do the thing. And I can't believe it, but she did it. She very reluctantly. And I feel like there's an energy in my being that I have to heal.
Erin, thank you so much for joining us. And it's Erin Sunniva. I'm going to refer to you as that. I personally, you've given me your bio. I put it in the description, but I don't like to share what it is that people do. I prefer that they hear it from you so that they can connect with you directly. So if you can just give us a bit of background about what it is you do and what is it that led you to doing what you do.
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you, Natasha, so much for inviting me here today. I'm pleased to be here. So I consider myself a spiritual alchemist. I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm a priestess and a high priestess. So that means I'm a teacher of other priestesses. So I'm a spiritual mentor and guide as well. And it kind of all started 2007 when I was doing a lot of tarot readings for friends of mine, and a girlfriend who is a yoga teacher and retreat master. She said, I want you to come to my next retreat and do readings, and I want you to charge. And so that was the first time that somebody was like, you're good enough, you should charge for this. And that opened the way. But I grew up with a father who's a hypnotherapist. So, and also incredibly devoted to Jesus, and not in a religious way, but just in a really beautiful relationship, brotherly way, I guess. And so having that softness, I think, in the place of when you need help, right? There's somebody you can call on. I know you can't see them, but they're there. It was like that kind of environment, mixed with his personality, which was like a whole nother growth piece that I, got to learn from and explore what my spirit wanted. So it was like I had this foundation, and then I went away to college and I was like, ooh, Buddhism, Hinduism, like, what is this? What is this? And then I happened upon the goddess, and it was a really beautiful, eye-opening experience for me. I found a community of pagans who really, brought me in and showed me what ritual was and taught me a lot about that. So it's like, just kind of bolstered me towards this. I didn't plan for it. I went to school for singing. So I have a degree in vocal performance, and I didn't do anything with it, immediately afterward. I didn't perform, or I did some performing, but I didn't audition, right? Like, I wasn't going for it. And for whatever reason, I didn't know why. I was like, my ego, I don't want to live in ego. I knew that whole, whether it was opera or, any kind of stage, was just like, I'm not a narcissist. I love to perform. I love to be seen and be on stage, but there's so much ego that's required in order to be successful in that area. And I just didn't want it. And so then spirit took over. And so here I am now, and I do Akashic record readings, past life regression. I do spirit releasement therapy with a protocol that my father put together. My father is my mentor with a lot of this work, and I've had different teachers along the way. So long story, not short at all.
I'm fascinated. So a lot of people, when they hear high priestess, they go into this voodoo, woo-woo, oh my goodness, what are you doing? How would you tell them that it's not what they think it is? Because they don't actually know what it is until they understand the principles behind it. Because we've been, for years, taught to believe that paganism is not considered a proper religion, and of course we know where it all started anyway, but I want them to hear it from you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, paganism isn't a religion in and of itself. It just simply literally translates us to non-Christian. And for me, what that means is nature-based, right? You know, it's interesting because the other high priestesses that I've learned from and worked with, they don't refer to themselves in that way publicly, right? It's kind of more of a private thing. And I'm not sure why I don't hold that energy as well. I think that there's a big piece of outing ourselves right now and coming back into visibility is really important. It's part of the divine feminine returning and coming into balance, right? And so the more that I can be authentic, truly authentic, and not hiding who I am, because we all spend our lives hiding who we really are. And it doesn't benefit us in any way. I understand oral tradition. I understand divine mysteries and holding certain teachings sacred. But if I'm going to hide the fact that I have received a certain amount of initiations that have placed me in a position to be a guide for other healers, that's potent, you know, and not to place me in a hierarchical place because I don't believe in spiritual hierarchy. But I am a teacher. And I can't deny that. And that's what being a high priestess means to me, right? It's like being the abbess, right? You're the one who's in charge, basically. Doesn't mean that you're more important than anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. So I agree that there's a lot of turn towards the feminine because people are starting to realize that the masculine is all about competition and everybody trying to one up on each other, and it hasn't worked. It's not working. The world's falling apart. But what would you say the divine feminine is? Because to me, it also includes love.
Mm-hmm.
It includes intuition.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that love is ubiquitous. It's neither masculine nor feminine. But I would say compassion is a sense of the, you know, okay, here's the thing for me. I am a priestess of the mother. So that is not the maiden and not the crone. And all are encompassing of who we refer to as the goddess, right? And the triple goddess, that face, comes from different traditions, different locations around the world, not universal, but in a sense, quite universal because these are archetypes that we travel through as humans, as women. But I have always carried the energy of the mother even before I was a mother. And I didn't really fully understand it for a long time, especially until I was a mother. But the divine feminine is, right, the yin to the yang. So where, like you were saying, the masculine is active, well, the feminine is receptive. And she's not moving forward, she's leaning back, right? She's not trying to run after her dreams. She's magnetizing her dreams to herself with the power of her womb, right? And there's just all of these essences of while there's all this energy moving forward, we're holding space. We're not going backwards, but we are the infinite bloom. We are the place where everything is created. We're the void, right? Whether we are babies, right? Or we're in our sensual unfolding as maidens, and we're like, oh, look at this power, you know, and that power is smooth. That power can be ferocious like a lioness, right? And can take care of threats like a mother bear. But at the same time, she's soft. She's cuddly, right? She's comfortable. She doesn't have jagged edges. She's round, right? And so the renewal of her energy that's coming back, as you know, it's like we've got the old energy coming back of the ancient goddess being revered again, right? Like if we look at the old, like Venus de Milo, who's like the oldest image that we have, the oldest sculpture that we have of the female form, and she's big and round like me, and it just feels like that is woman. You know, like if you just be with it, the big breast, that is life. Breasts, life. Womb, life. You know, and so it's just this constant giving. It's this constant flow from seemingly out of nowhere, but it's because we contain the void within us.
I love the way you describe that. I used to teach sensual fitness classes, and I often used to say that a woman moves in a circle,
Mm-hmm.
and a man moves up and down. And if you look at the way people move, if a woman had to bounce around and start doing push-ups, that would not be sensual at all.
Mm-hmm.
But if a man had to start doing hip circles, it just wouldn't look nice either. He would look way too feminine. You know what I mean? It's like, I want the guy to drop on his knees and just start doing push-ups. That would be nice. That would be sexy.
Right.
But not for a woman to do that. It's very, but the way you've described it, from just the roundness of it, and we are holding it. So do you think this 4B movement is an accident?
The what movement?
You know about the 4B movement?
No.
Oh, let me share that with you. Okay, so this is going around on TikTok, and I'm quite fascinated with it. So in 2016, I think, there was a lady in Korea, I think it was South Korea, who wrote an autobiography about her life, as saying she never wants to be with a man again because she's not respected. Women are not treated well in her culture. And so she said, and it was 4 things that start with a B. So being married, having their children, raising the children, taking care of the home, it all starts with a B. So it's the 4B movement. But she wrote a book about her experience. And what happened is all the other women in South Korea, I think it was South Korea, they all started commenting on this because they had the exact same experience. And they all said they don't want to be married anymore. They don't want to have babies anymore because they're not being treated with respect and honor and all of these things. And now, this year, for the first time, there has been hardly any children attending grade 1 in that country because there's no children. And the men are starting to get a little bit stressed because they don't know how to get these women to conform and do what they want them to do. But they said, we can't have that anymore. But I'm seeing that going into all the cultures all over the world. And it's almost like it's like, not like really the Me Too movement, but it's almost going into all the societies where women are starting to say no more. And it's coming from the women, but not in a violent kind of a way, even with the women, burning their headgear and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's passive. It's definitely femme to just say, okay, fine. If you're not going to treat me with respect, I will retreat. It's definitely a feminine way. It's also concerning because the birth rate is going down to begin with. And especially after the last 4 years, another, who knows what will be the circumstances from that. But I certainly think it's interesting because we've gotten so far away from our natural proclivities as men, as women. And since the first feminist wave, that women were like, wait, I don't have to be in the kitchen. I don't have to do this, and my grandmother was a part of that. Like, I feel that in my bones as well. She went to Vassar. She was living in New York City. She was working for Vanity Fair. She was a writer. She was a model. Like, she was in it. She was doing it for herself. And then her mother called her and said, you have to come home. You have to get married. You have to have babies, and you have to do the thing. And I can't believe it, but she did it. She very reluctantly. And I feel like there's an energy in my being that I have to heal in relation to feeling trapped I totally get it. Feeling trapped by children, by the house, by the husband, And I'm here like, I am a bleeping high priestess. I have so much to do. Why am I here making dinner for you ungrateful people? You know what I mean? And I literally just wrote a post this morning that I'm like, I'm fascinated by all of the powerfully creative, productive people out there. And then I realized, oh, yes, they don't have children, right? So it's like women really do compromise, but we're compromising from a false need that's actually not required of us. And if we want to look at the bigger picture, there's much more, pardon me for saying this, but I'm going to say fuckery in relation to society. And when that first feminist wave came out, it was actually a reflection after World War II, where the women had to step up with their masculine energy to help fight the war and fill in the holes that had been made by the men who went off to fight, and many of whom did not come back. So here we are now, the women are working. What do we do with that? So there's a lot of different aspects where our society has created a situation that causes women to step into their masculine, be more forthright, be more pursuant, right, of an external goal instead of holding the circle, holding the hearth. You know, I would love to be in my cottage in the woods at my hearth with my herbs, with my arts, with my creative energy, and with my children running around and being wild and learning, you know, the ways of life. But we're here and we are where we are. And we do have to respond with, you know, it's hard to respond to how our society has created the world that we're in now after all of that for the last 80 years, 70, 80 years, and say, okay, in our reclamation, what is the right way to do this? Yeah. Because I don't think that 4B is the right way to do it, you know?
Well, I always say that women are learning how to be women, because we've always had to just fit the role, do what we need to do, keep up so that we can stay alive and evolve just to stay alive, do whatever the men are asking them to do. And now they're having to say, well, what do I want to do? And I don't want to do that. So it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction, you know?
For sure.
But that would be the first step, is to say, well, I'm not going to keep doing that. Now let's see what we want to do instead.
Right.
You know, but to keep doing the same thing, because they're just going to be coerced, because women don't like confrontation. Most people that I have met don't, but women specifically, they prefer that everyone just gets along, be nice, you know, let's have a happy family. And sometimes it doesn't work if you don't have boundaries, if you don't have a place where you say, I'm not going to do that. It doesn't work for me.
Right.
Yeah.
You're so right. The word boundaries is so important. And our boundaries are trampled over as young as women, as children. You know, we're not even given the space to discover who we are, because we're put directly into schools that square our circle, you know, and are you know, formulated to take away our individual essence, you know. So you know, the past 150 years has been a profound destruction of our natural selves, man or woman, or in between. You know, we're like, what in the world is happening? You know, with the combination of just humanity changing, but then the way that we're being affected by our environment and the toxins in our environment, and then we make it a political issue, but the toxins are affecting us, or we make it, right, a personal issue, but it's a result of how we've been treated on the planet by powers that be, you know. So there's so many layers when it comes to this, that we have to, even in our own awakening as women, as humans, we have to participate in the ideological awakening as well, of taking down the veils, pretty much.
Yeah.
And educating ourselves on the true history of our planet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the rituals, because I know rituals are so important, not just from the fact that you're doing something, but it almost concretizes something within you when you do it out in the physical.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely connects you to the ancients, doing ritual. There is a very powerful thing that happens when you invoke energy. We are little beings that could just be considered, ants on this planet or parasites, but we're actually incredibly powerful. And we've been given very, very potent abilities that for most people are untapped, right? And one of those is just the clear sense that I have free will and I have a spiritual authority that lies within me. For most people, that's dormant. They don't know it. They don't have a relationship to it. And, I've been fortunate to be raised knowing that I have it, and that I can call on the light, and that the light is here for me, waiting for me to call on it, right? Whether that's in the form of a being, a deity, or an angel, right? Or just the light itself, love itself will come if I call it. And so when I create a container, then I am creating a space where love can reside wholly. It can be protected, right? The frequency that I want to create or invoke can come and be held, and not by me. I don't have to hold it. I can trust that these friends of mine, these non-physical friends of mine, are here to hold it for me, And so ritual connects us to our history, our ancestry, our past lives, but especially to nature. You can't do, you could, but ritual or a ceremony is incomplete if the elements are not present. And that's the whole point of paganism or earth worship or walking the path of a medicine person or a priest or a priestess, non-religious, is to have a relationship with nature, to have a relationship with water and fire and with the air, and be able to communicate to all of these, whether or not, you develop to the sense that you can actually move them, right? And there are, individuals who are incredibly attuned to the wind and to the water, especially. Seeing a lot of that more on social media. So people are really coming out of the closet. But the ritual in itself connects us to the deepest need in our being, which is connection. And realizing also an element, right? Many. And I am also connected to this fire that's here in the center, or if it's I actually like to do water ceremonies. So I spent many years in the privileged position of being invited into Indigenous ceremonies. So I got to, diet in Peru with ayahuasca and with other plant medicines while I was there, and then spent 8 years in an ayahuasca church, and had many, many, many teepee ceremonies that I was privileged to sit up with the Native American church and commune with the plants and commune with the elements, and be in that place of severe dedication. There's nothing like an indigenous ceremony to teach you how to focus, how to listen, how to pay attention to the subtleties, because spirit is in the subtle world, right? It's not in the obvious. And so I feel like I've been really trained in a lot of different ways of how to pray. And I have full body chills saying that. Prayer is incredibly important to me. Ritual, prayer, ceremony is so incredibly important because it humbles me. It brings me into my feminine, into my softness, even if I'm in a leadership position in that space. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking the tribes have kept that going, and I think the Western world has lost that completely. In fact, they've tried to hide it, like you said. They've buried our original history.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that is tragic. And maybe that is also why we're searching for that connection, because if they told the truth all along, we wouldn't feel so lost.
Absolutely. Well, and also if we have to zoom back kind of and look at the bigger picture of colonialism as well, right?
Yeah.
And recognize everybody at some point has been colonized, right? Whether it was like pre-human, the planet was colonized, and then, and now here we are, and we learn, we extend life by displaying power over others. This is how we survive, right?
That's how we,
right? How our bloodline will survive if we have power over it. So it's like, that's where slavery is created. That's, and that's where the bigger, powerful group comes in and takes over. And that's happened to everybody. And we love to say Rome, goes back to Rome. Well, you know what? Rome was colonized too. They learned from others, so within me, I have Irish ancestry and British ancestry. How do I reconcile, victim and perpetrator that both reside within me? How do I do that? And it's been a journey for me, and I'm still in that place. I love all parts of myself. I love all parts of my heritage, but I lean into my Irish side because it's safer, I think. And because I'm being Irish, you're not part of the empire, but now, where am I? I'm in a different empire. I'm an American, and or I should say I'm a North American, and here we are, still recognizing colonialism, still recognizing how the power dynamic. But when we humble ourselves, when we return to nature, all of that disappears. All of that doesn't matter in the slightest. And the only thing that matters is love in the moment.
Yeah. Well, I saw during lockdown how nature started coming out again. Without humans, the air started getting clearer. The flowers started blooming. Everything started. The waters cleared up, and animals were roaming freely, and it was just so peaceful. And then you get humans along, and then there it goes again.
Right.
Yeah. So nature doesn't need our help. We need their help.
That's right.
So a little bit more about the rituals now. So you do, because obviously I don't know much about that, and I've got you in front of me and I can pick your brain.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do a ritual, let's say water or fire or whatever, is each ceremony different? So you'd invoke one of the elements and you'd use the element towards giving you a certain, or using the property of it towards certain outcome. How does it work?
Mm-hmm. Well, in a water ceremony, the water is what we refer to as the sacrament, right? Okay. So just like with when you take communion, right? that is a form of ingesting a sacrament. And Jesus is considered the sacrament, right? In traditional indigenous ceremonies, the entheogen, the plant itself that you're consuming, that's the sacrament. So in water ceremonies, the water is the sacrament. That means it is the healer, right? It's the one that's in charge. So if I'm doing a water ceremony, I'm invoking my team, right? I'm also calling in the elements. I might do what we call casting the circle, where I'm calling the elements from the directions where they reside in the Celtic tradition, as well as including above and below and center. So I'm creating the container, right, by casting a circle and speaking to the beneficial nature of each when I'm calling them in. And then we have a process where we sing for the water, right? We're giving energy to the water first. And we might, pass a rattle around. This is very common in the indigenous ceremonies, especially in the teepee, is that the drum and the rattle, first the medicine is passed around, and then the drum and the rattle is passed around, and everybody just sings all night long. And there's a certain part where they have a water woman come in and they pray over the water, and then and then pass the water around, and then the singing commences when the water ceremony is done. But in my water ceremonies, we sing to the water, we pray over the water, and we're not praying for ourselves yet. We're focused on the water, and the water, if you know anything about water, receives it all. The water is a magnet for information and energy, and loves to receive your intentions, loves to receive your impressions, right? So then we pass the water around, and then we pray for ourselves while the water is going around. And the way that I was taught is that when the water is going around, you don't sing. When the water is going around, you are speaking. You're speaking about the water. You're speaking about the way that the water is going to bless you in your life. And that's the way that you pray. So when we pray, we're not like, Lord, I need, right? We're, thank you, Creator, for this wonderful thing in my life. Thank you for the water. Thank you for all of the things. And what happens is, in that process of humbling yourself as a human, saying, you are much more powerful than me, nature, right? You are also opening yourself to receive the medicine of the water, to receive the medicine of the container itself. And from that experience, you may go home and have a profound event or dream that might inform your life, or the way that the elements work with you can be quite gentle in their nudging and their communication, and the way that they'll help your life kind of bloom in a way. And depending on your relationship with that element, that energy can be loud or it can be soft, right? So you could have a flood in your house and be like, woohoo, here comes the water, you called us in. It's like, whoa, okay, I didn't mean that, so you really do have to be paying attention to the subtleties, because if we come in with too much, I don't know, like I've experienced people who have come into ceremony for the first time and they're like, okay, I'm really excited to be here. I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to be really, and it's like, that's actually not the energy that you want for a ritual. You just want to be present. You just need to be present. Yeah. Because then you can hear, what is your prayer anyway? And we actually call this, when we're moving too fast, or we're not listening to what I refer to as the medicine of the moment, we're getting ahead of the medicine. And you never want to get ahead of the medicine, because the medicine is in charge, whether it's an entheogen or simple water, right? That medicine is in charge. So don't think that you're going to tell it what to do, or that you're going to know better than what that element is asking of you. And that's one of the things that I say also in that ritual is you might want to take some time and ask the water what you need, what you should pray for. You know, the elements actually know better than we do. Our ego says, oh, well, I need a new car. You know, it's like, well, maybe you do, but there's something else that you need in order to align with that new car. So let's focalize on that, you know?
Yeah.
And that is feminine. That is feminine. Ritual itself is feminine because you have to be receptive. You have to be listening. You have to be. And I've learned the hard way. I have had my ego smacked down plenty of time in ceremony and out around getting in front of the medicine.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's so powerful. And I mean, we probably do that in different ways anyway. I mean, if our bodies are consisting of so much water and women are looking at themselves in the mirror saying, oh, you're so ugly, or, you know, and how do women judge themselves? Men don't as much. They think they're amazing no matter how they look. Women will say, yeah, but there's this dimple here but you're telling yourself and then wondering why you feel so bad.
Right. But you talk to yourself that way. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is exactly that. It's that receptivity. Instead of, you know, women are, I think we're taught you must always give. We train, it's that superwoman complex, you know. I've got to be the perfect mother, the perfect wife, the perfect daughter, the perfect everything. I cannot cry. I can't have time for myself. I must always smile, always be available to everyone. But they don't know how to receive anymore.
Right.
They actually don't know how to. And then when you say, well, you need to breathe in also. You can't just breathe out. Then it's like, yeah, but I feel guilty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and you always have to take care of everybody else before yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, I for some reason the memory or the flash that's coming in my mind right now is from a classic movie, A Christmas Story. And the mother is making dinner, serving dinner. She's served everybody. She literally sits down and her husband says, oh, can you get me? And she's like, okay, you know, and she's like, ah.
I can see how that works.
Yeah. So common. Yeah. And just that sense of entitlement too. You're the one that's doing all of these things. You're the one who's in charge here. I wouldn't do it myself, you know. I try to empower my children, you know, to get snacks for themselves and things like that. You don't have to ask me. You can get it yourself. But then they're standing there with the refrigerator wide open and just staring into the fridge. And I'm like, never mind, I'll do it. You know, I'll get it for you. You know, so it's a fine balance. It's a fine balance, but you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head with we don't know how to receive. We don't know how to receive. We can't receive compliments, right? We can't receive, especially when we have time to ourselves. We don't even know what to do with it anymore because we've lost the art of tending to ourselves. And the phrase that is used constantly now is self-care, but self-care, right, is an exponent of actual tending to one's well-being.
Correct.
This is a regular practice. This isn't like, oh, once a month I get my self-care, or once a week I, you know, get a massage and that's my self-care. No. Self-care is tending to your spirit and your body and your heart on a daily basis. For me, I mean, you know, waking up. So I have a 3-year-old and a 4.5-year-old. I also have a 14-year-old. So I wake up early and I don't get much time to set myself straight. So I have to hopefully find the space within the first 2 or 3 hours of being awake of saying, I'm going to go downstairs real quick, go into my office, my little sanctuary, and I'll come in here. And sometimes I'll even share my process on social media because I know my clients really appreciate, oh, you're doing this for yourself, let me do it with you, So, and that is just connecting to my higher self, breathing into my belly, maybe doing some stretching or some shaking, and waking up my body, taking all of my tinctures, and just having the space for me. And I do actually have to leave the room. I do actually have to go into my sanctuary in order to receive for myself, because it's what we have to do. We are, we're not in a society where morning rituals happen for the whole family. And I know that my 4.5-year-old, he's really incredible. His name is Elijah. And he loves to sing. He loves to sing the songs that I sing. He's learning them. And yesterday, I was helping him to nap. And I said, let's take some deep breaths, because he was really worked up. And I was just like, and he just automatically did it. He just went into it. And my other 2 children, of course, the 3-year-old, I don't expect much from her, but he's really like, yeah, this feels good. I want to do it. When I start toning, to take care of myself. So a toning is another thing that I do with my voice, with sound, for self-care, right? And he'll join me, he'll join me. And I'm just like, ooh, maybe he wants to do more. And so yesterday I was like, do you want to do yoga with me in the mornings instead of turning on cartoons? And he was like, okay. He was kind of like, what are you setting me up for? And he's like, what do you mean no cartoons? But I just love that he is curious and he wants to participate. And that's really reassuring, because, we used to live in these societies where we would wake up and have some kind of morning ritual together. And there are a lot of people who wake up and pray, with their family, without their family, or they end their day in prayer. Like there's really a powerful communion when the family comes together and say, yes, Spirit, we're connected, we're here, we're listening, at any age, and I'm trying to get there with my family, encouraging my husband or my children to do the things doing. Of course, my 14-year-old, and I'm like, well, I want to have a coming of age ceremony for you. And she's like, I don't need that. And I was like, oh, I wish I had it. She's like, oh, maybe you should have one for yourself, Mom. maybe I should, Yeah. And wouldn't that be amazing? If some like 40 and 50-year-old women are like, you know what? It's time for my menarche ceremony. I never got to have one.
Oh, I love that.
Wouldn't that be
do it?
Yeah.
But all cultures, even I noticed a lot of the Portuguese women, when they get married, they cut their hair. Huh. In some tribes, when they come of age, they either get circumcised, or they have their cheeks cut, or they get a tattoo. It's a ritual of a change of life of some sort. It's right within all of our cultures, and a lot of people don't know why they're doing it. They just have this need to cut their hair all of a sudden, but it's shows you that there's something going on inside that they want to express externally. But how magic is it if you know that you're doing it consciously and not unconsciously?
Right. Well, I would. Is there a question there? Was there a question there? Or, did I miss?
Yes and no. It's just how amazing would that be? Because that is what you do, and to be part of it, like you're doing your ayahuasca ceremonies, and to be part of that it's not just about taking drugs and lying, watching the stars or whatever at all. It's a journey inside.
Yeah. I will tell you that while that medicine, the grandmother, as we refer to her, returns me to my joy, I have to go through the whole ceremony to get to that, like I've got to go through the whole process. And you don't take medicine like that, and it is blindly referred to as drugs, unfortunately, but you don't do that to enjoy it. You do it to heal. You do it to pray, you do it to sing all night long, to cleanse your spirit, to be reborn in some way, and to just clear out all of the bullshit out of your life, Yeah. And you're absolutely right. Coming of age ceremonies, we need them, and especially those very important markers. And I have not studied the masculine mysteries, so I don't know, what those archetypes are for them. We have very clear, poignant, blood-based, reality that shifts us from one archetype to another. Women also need their menopause, their ritual to step into crone. And how interesting that a lot of women really resist stepping into crone. They resist the word, they're like, crone means hag, it's like the ugly old woman. I'm like, I don't know that very many ugly old women, I'll tell you that first. And the wisdom that resides within the elder, who is accepting of her life journey and the wisdom that she has gained, and recognizes that she is in a place of authority as a wise one, just because she got there, like she earned it just by living her life, whatever she went through,
Yeah.
And that also needs to be honored, really, truly honored.
Yeah.
Whether it's, younger ones honoring the elder, but especially her honoring herself. I've had a recent ritual that had to do with the maiden mother and the crone, and the woman who was the elder, a very wise woman in our community, teacher and herbalist, and I'm like, well, you're the elder, you're the crone, and she's like, oh, don't make that word. You are so wise, and that is a name of respect. It's a title of respect. It's just as respectful as the mother. It's just as respectful as the maiden, and it is because we have vilified growing old. We don't honor our elders. We don't honor death. And that whole last, quarter of life or third of life is just like, just put them all in nursing homes and not have to deal with them. It's like, there's so much fruitfulness for us to receive, but if we don't have a threshold that we're crossing as humanity, like in our communities, to say, look, where you are now, we want to honor you collectively, or we want to honor this whole age group, we want to honor you, blah, 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 right? We're really disempowering ourselves as communities, as humanity, because we're discounting our most prized possession, and we don't even realize it. The wisdom of our elders, our parents.
You're spot on. You really are spot on. And I mean, even the way that there's AI, auto-correcting all the women's faces and the lines, and you better not get old, and men are going for younger women. Like, older women are done. They finished. There's no value there. And I always say, also to my clients, I say, when you have been, because I work also with narcissistic abuse, but when you've been in a toxic relationship, you lose your innocence. But what you get is wisdom.
Sure.
You can't go back to being that ignorant or naive person, but you've gained so much because you've seen through it. And that doesn't make it easy. That doesn't make it any easier, but it makes you more effective at life. It makes you not just take everyone at face value. It makes you value certain things more than others, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
I do have friends who have survived narcissistic abuse, and I cannot imagine that experience. I'm so grateful that I haven't had to, live through that process. I give so much gratitude to the supportive people, like you, people who are able to see and call that out and lift that veil. I think that, now we have a name for it, but there are generations of people who are still healing from narcissistic parents, and et cetera, et cetera. And there's a what feels like a baseline of trauma that is informing our reality.
Yeah.
That even ritual can be a part of moving on from, because ritual is also a portal that we are stepping into. And when we step into that portal and we step out, we are not the same person that stepped in, ever. Not ever. And so if we allow ourselves, as whether we're small communities or large communities, to hold space for the healing process that's necessary for a multitude, it would really benefit all of us in a lot of ways. And also to shed light on what causes narcissism, because I do not believe that people are born narcissistic. I would love to hear what you have to say on this topic, because it's definitely a culture that is creating narcissist selfie culture, right? Like everywhere you go, there's people like, whew,
narcissism is just an extreme. We all have it. It's back to the ego. It's just ego. It's when it gets out of control. And often it's just a self-defense mechanism. If people are not willing, if it's too much pain to look in, then they would rather just project it out. And I mean, I think if you've caused so much trauma to others and you've created such a train wreck, to have to take accountability for that and going back to all what you've done, it's much easier to say, I never did that. Because I think, they go through so much inner trauma that to go to the depth of where they think they need to go, that would be hell. And so they rather just keep telling the lies and doing what they're doing because they cannot descend into that. And in that sense, yes, you have to have empathy for that. But it's very hard when you see what they've done. But at the end of the day, I mean, they'd have to reconcile with that. And I don't think it's only culturally made. I think there's a lot of factors as well. I think a lot of it is also inherited, like you're talking about the Irish and the British. It's in you. It could be a dynamic you inherited from a grandfather that you feel loyal to, even though you've never met him, that you feel like you've identified in some way with that person and you want to honor them by continuing in their footsteps almost, And it could also be past life stuff that you're bringing through from a past life and just carrying on where you left off. That needs healing. But I think Judas betrayed Jesus. Did that make him bad, or was that a soul contract? There had to be a bad guy in order for this whole religion to evolve. So how do they know? Because they were the closest friends. They were the closest. So everyone's vilified Judas. And but at the end of the day, there would not be Christianity were it not for him in the way that it turned out. So is narcissism all bad? Yeah, when you're going through it, hell, it's hell. It's hell. But when you come out on the other side and you realize how you've been part of that dynamic and you just continue to enable it. But it's the same as the woman rising up. It's saying we're not going to keep enabling bad behavior. Just because they're stronger, louder, more forceful doesn't make it right.
And look at the world stage, right?
That's
it's almost as if like the world is one big narcissist. And I mean, when we think about like how much we're gaslit from politicians, from the media, you know, and from our own history books,
yep,
you know,
exactly.
It's crazy making. It really is crazy making. That's why I say we have to really do our due diligence to uncover the true history of the planet, because that is also part of our healing, because we have been so thickly veiled, not just veiled with different illusions, but like, oh no, our whole history is a lie, just, you know, and that's a lot to tackle, you know, just as one human, one person, to be like, okay, well, no matter what happened in the past, I'm here right now. What do I do with it? And how does that affect me?
Yeah.
And the reason that it's important to me to know the true history of the planet is because I want to know who I am and who I've been. And because also part of my work is remembering all of that and incorporating the teachings, the initiations, the healing that I've already done so that I don't have to do it again, right? And that's part of the work that I do for my clients as well, is to like, okay, let's call forward your past lives and have them share their medicine with you so that you can remember who you are, you know? Yeah. And my process has brought me back like 40,000 years on that journey. And I'm like, okay, seeing more of myself that far back is just truly incredible. And it also breaks all of the barriers of the gaslighting in our history and in our world itself, that it's like, it's okay if they're lying to us about everything. I know my truth. And that keeps me in a good place.
Yeah, absolutely. And also the water holds all the memories.
That's right. That's right. I was, you know, so I do readings and I love to ask my dowsing rods questions. And one of the questions that I asked recently was, does the water remember itself before humanity? And it absolutely does. And when I pray for the water, I pray for the water to remember its original composition and to return to it, and just be, not just to remember it, but to be in that active return. And she listens, you know, she listens, especially if you consider, well, I love how much more that we know about water now, right? With the experiments, Dr. Emoto, of course, bless his soul for what he has kind of opened this whole new realm of experience and understanding around water in its crystalline structure and its impressionable essence. And there are others who are continuing this work and showing how simple you can actually see how the water, you don't have to have a microscope to see the water be affected by your energy. So, the I'm not sure where I'm going with this.
It's just they are the remembrance of the water is in the memory of going back into your past lives and healing, and we just need to connect with that, and you can remember who you are. It doesn't, you know, people can't try and erase the records. They can take away your history books, they can burn them, they can, you know, change the story, delete the stuff off the internet, but that didn't change history. It still happened the way it happened. it's still there, and it's in our cellular memory.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So where can people get hold of you?
My website is divinesinging.com. And I like to explain that a little bit because people think, oh, that you're just a singer, but it really comes from an idea that we are the vessel through which the divine performs and shines and sings. And so my work is to support you in clarifying your being, clarifying who you are so that the divine can sing through you. Yeah.
Nice. Yep. Nice. I'll put that link as well below. Yeah.
Okay.
And then before we go, do you have a message for our audience?
Let me ask the mother if she has a message for your audience. Believe in yourselves. Please take the time to truly follow your love, follow your affinities. That is where your purpose lies. And the more that you believe in yourself and you trust what comes through, the more you are fulfilling your purpose and also creating that frequency of fulfilling purpose on the planet. And the more that each of us as individuals do that, the easier it gets for everyone to do that. So please believe in yourself and what you're here to do. Everyone has an important piece of the puzzle in humanity's project, in this experiment of experience. Yes. Keep trusting.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Love that. All right, Erin, thank you so much for sharing. It was great to talk to you, and I will hope to connect with you soon.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. That was a wonderful. Actually, I was just thinking about Teal Swan because she wrote a book and she was saying that she hated herself so much that she decided to send love to the water, unconditional love to the water, the love she felt to her child, and then drink the water. And she said she vomited. She couldn't hold the water down. The first time she tried to drink it, she couldn't get it into her body. That is how much she hated herself. It didn't agree with her. It made her sick. It took her, I don't know, I can't remember, it was maybe a week or so, just to allow and receive love into her body. To say, I'm worthy of drinking this.
Wow.
It's insane. Anyway, thank you for doing what you do. I absolutely love it. I really think it's something that more people will be interested in because there is an uprising. Women are feeling the need to do something, and ritual is such a good way to enact something. It's not, again, like I said before, it's not about power over. It's about standing in your unique gift. We have something to offer. Other people have got something to offer. It's not about one-upping and saying, well, we're better than you. That's competition. That's a male energy. Women are not, that's not where we're at. And I think the men feel so threatened by it, but they're not willing to step back and give it a chance.
Well, absolutely. They're looking from their own perspective.
Yeah.
They don't recognize their purpose as protecting the feminine, right? And that the feminine is the fruit, right? And that if they could actually just use their work to hold the container of the woman will provide everything they need and they will never compete, right? They will only provide what we do.
Yeah. So right.
Well, thank you, Tasha, for
thank you.
Inviting me, including me in your world. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. I look forward to chatting to you soon. Thank you.
You too.
Enjoy your day. Okay, bye-bye.